that reminds me, we should have this conversation now in full view of the audience.
Okay.
When are we going to start officially going into the spoilers? As I think we should have a clear line of demarcation for any listeners
Oops.
who may have not yet seen it. Be like, okay, here's the line. After this, here be spoilers. Should we do that right now or should we wait a bit?
You can't really get into this without spoilers, so
All right, listeners,
I feel
who
like
are
the whole
officially warned, there are spoilers. If you don't want
Yeah.
it spoiled, watch season 5 now, then come back.
Right.
You are warned.
Walking a path along the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road toward the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and wait a minute, what song is that playing on the speaker? Is that Kate Bush? Sorry, in the corner table by the fire are 3 people. One of them is nodding, yes, that is definitely Kate Bush. Running up that hill. Yeah, keyword, running. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. That person talking about the song, that's me. That's your co-host, Mandy. Welcome to Believe to See, a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to connect the great story, the great stories, and our own stories so that we can better understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. So tonight, we want to talk a little bit about, there's this quote, all truth is God's truth. And Google couldn't help me to find out specifically who said it first. There is a book by R.C. Sproul that said all truth is God's truth, but maybe it's just an idiom. But typically it is applied to scientific, mathematical, provable, empirically demonstrable facts. But it's seen in artistic spaces as well. And that is one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to explore that idea at the pub table. And our focus is going to be on the little known show, not very successful, called Stranger Things. You might have heard of it. And at the pub table, as usual, it's my buddies. We have Matthew Mellema and Christina Brown. Matthew, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you, Mandy.
Were you tempted to break in and sing the song for me? You're typically our singer.
I'm a very disciplined podcaster, so no.
Maybe later then. I mean, Christina's the more professional singer, but you were the more frequent singer, I think. Speaking of Christina, how are you?
great. I did almost sing. It was very tempting.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the lyrics. I just, in my head, I'm just like, it's just
Yeah.
like,
See, there you go. You
it's
gotta have some
ready
musical.
to come out. It's just ready
Yeah.
to roll.
And being the Gen Xer at the table, I absolutely loved that song. I can remember listening to it all the time. But anyway, we have more things to say about that song later. But first, I just want to get your general opinions and impressions of the series. Matthew, what did you think overall of the cultural phenomenon?
Well, it's kind of weird going through it because I wanted to do a rewatch of all 4 previous seasons ahead of season 5. So I watched the whole thing again. And the main thing is I enjoyed it more than I was expecting to. And I already loved season 1. I always thought season 1 was like the perfect season of just like enjoyable television. Then I would have told you seasons 2 and 3 were fine, but lesser. Then season 4 picked it up again. I really enjoyed season 2 and 3 more than I was expecting. 4 was great again, and that was a great lead into season 5. I just finished season 5 the other day, and I was telling you guys this in the green room. I have not read a single think piece or listened to a podcast or heard any secondary media on it. It's just me and my own lonesome thoughts. So I'm a little uneasy to tell you what I thought about something until that's mediated by like the cultured thought leaders, but I'll do my best.
What about you, Christina?
Overall, yeah, I actually did not rewatch any of the series before jumping into season 5. And I realized that that means that I did forget some of the key plot issues, but we did do a heavy Wikipedia review before watching season 5.
Good.
Yeah.
The Cliff's Notes.
The Cliff's Note, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I found it was really easy to jump right back in. The characters, although I have to admit, they did look so much older. I was like, whoa.
No. Yeah.
Especially Nancy there. I was like, girlfriend,
Mhm.
how old are we? No.
Yeah.
No, but I felt like the acting was consistent and like Elle in particular,
Mhm.
she felt like she hadn't aged as far as her acting and the way she played her character, which is pretty significant, I think, given all the things she's been in since.
That's a good point. Millie Bobby Brown has taken off and done a lot of other projects. So that really is, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point that she was able to come back in and be 11
Yeah,
so authentically.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, overall, I have some thoughts on it in general. There was one point where I was like, "Oh no, please tell me you're not going to do this." And they didn't, and I'm so proud.
Yeah.
But I can get into that later. So
Killing Steve.
what?
Was
No,
it when they made us think they were going to kill Steve? Okay, never mind.
nope,
We
that
can,
wasn't it.
yeah.
That wasn't it.
Okay.
By
We'll
the
get to it
way,
later. Mhm.
that reminds me, we should have this conversation now in full view of the audience.
Okay.
When are we going to start officially going into the spoilers? As I think we
Mm,
should have a clear line of demarcation for any listeners who
Oops.
may have not yet seen it. Be like, okay, here's the line. After this, here be spoilers. Should we do that right now or should we wait a bit?
you can't really get into this without spoilers. So
All
I feel
right,
like
listeners
I feel
who
like
are
the whole
officially warned, there are spoilers. If you don't want
Yeah,
it spoiled, watch season 5 now, then come back. You are
right.
warned.
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, so for me, I did sort of in between what you guys did. We did not rewatch all 4 seasons, but I found I think it was about a 20-minute, 25-minute YouTube recap. There were a lot of those, and so I watched that, and the guy was talking really fast. I was actually thinking of Matt. I was like, this is like on 1.5 speed or 2 times speed. But so I studied that way. So I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch recaps with scenes. And I was really glad because I really think I would have been completely lost because you forget how many things happened. They have so many characters, and every single one of them has massive things happen to them over the course of the series. And I know, Christina, you recommended to us a think piece, as Matthew said, a podcast that you listened to. I want to hear what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, well, I think they're a little bit spread kind of throughout the process
Okay, if you
of
want to just reference them as we
yeah,
go, that
I think
works.
that makes more sense, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. All right. So, what I want to do, I was just struck when I was watching season 5. I think the first thing that really hit me was how the upside down, just as I was watching it, and I don't know why it didn't hit me before season 5, but whatever. As we were watching it, I turned to my husband, Peter, and I was like, you know what? The upside down, the fact that it's a copy of reality, but it's flipped, it just makes me think of how that's really what evil is. It's the corruption of what's really there. It's not something completely new. It's corrupted. It's a corruption of reality and God's creation. That was the first thing that really hit me. Do you guys have thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that the upside down is a very Augustinian concept, right? Where
Mm,
Augustine had this idea that evil is a privation or like the absence, the corruption of the good, right? That evil doesn't have independent existence. It's a privation, it's a corruption of something pre-existing that is good. And that is what you see in the upside down, right? There's no independent existence that it has. It just takes the good everyday things of Hawkins and twists them. And it's like a poor facsimile of what already exists in the real world. So yeah,
hmm
it absolutely, you can do a very easy Augustinian reading of Stranger Things.
Yeah, I should have thought of that. I read Augustine in my freshman year of college for the first time. And the absence of evil, I remember, was the absence being what's evil or whatever. I'm not as erudite as you are, Matthew. Christina, did you have thoughts on that?
The upside down in particular?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was fascinating even in the very beginning of season 1 where you realize it's a mirror image and like
Yeah.
basically. And you do think of like the upside down. You do think of like what is the equal opposite, you know?
hmm
And I do it's not like at first it's just really creepy because it is almost like it's us, but it's not. It's Hawkins,
hmm
not, you know? And the
Yeah.
kids are trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. In season 5, there's even there's even a reference to all that like ash stuff falling from the
Yeah.
sky. and one of them is like, "Have we discovered what this is? Is it something like is it radiation? Is it gonna hurt us?" And they're just like, "No idea."
Yeah.
Like, we
No
never figured
idea.
that one out.
Yeah.
Um, and and so that made me laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just something I really think, yeah, there's that mirror image and how sin can look so normal to us,
Mm-hmm.
so much like us, but it's still corrupted, and you gotta have the
Yeah.
eyes to see it. Although, I think in Upside Down is pretty obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. Sort of hit us over the head with the
Yeah.
metaphor. And I think that sort of feeling like things aren't as they should be is something we encounter even when it's not abject evil. Like you guys know, I experienced a lot of losses last year. My mom and then two teenagers I knew well didn't know each other, but they both took their own lives within just a couple months of each other. And one of them, she was only 13, and that's the one thing her dad keeps saying. I'm still in touch with them, and he just keeps saying, this isn't how it's supposed to be. It's just not, this is not right. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And sort of that ache and that feeling, just this, we could go to this is not our home, although God did put us here for a purpose. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, just sort of that feeling of things are just not right, and they're not the way God would love for them to be, you know? It's not the Garden of Eden.
And while we're on the topic of this other hidden world, there's more parallels we can draw there, right? Because
Mhm.
you see that the main characters, the heroes who know about the other world, they have this advantage over everyone else because they're the ones who have eyes to see that there's more than just what there seems to be on the surface, and they can perceive what's actually happening while everybody else is just sort of blindly guessing and arriving at very wrong conclusions. So you see that there's this awareness of something beyond what we can just perceive, and how that dramatically alters the way that you behave.
So, what other parallels did you guys see? We can stick with Upside Down as long as we want to milk that one, or move on to something else that you're dying to say.
Well, something along those lines is I really enjoyed how the main characters, especially once the season gets going with season 5, have this attitude where they know that the vast majority of Hawkins doesn't understand what's going on, will blame them for what's going on, and doesn't won't give them any credit for doing the right thing, but they still just do the right thing even though they
Mm.
know a lot of it will cause Hawkins to hate them and the military to try to kill them. It's an attitude of like, I can't convince you. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I don't care what you think of me. And I appreciated the attitude. They straight up kidnapped Derek's family.
Yes, they
That's a
did.
serious crime, but they did it to save Derek.
Also, sorry, look, kind of a side note, but what happened to Derek's parents? Like, I guess they were at the graduation,
And his
but
sister.
they didn't really show them getting rescued. But anyway, whatever. That's another
I mean,
podcast.
they know that Erica's responsible because she's the one who chloroformed her friend at the very end, and Erica's just running around free. While we're on this topic, when they come back from the Upside Down in the very final episode, the army just sort of descends on them. If you'll remember earlier in the episode, I know they had good reasons, but they sure as heck did kill a lot of army people, which I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure the army would view as a serious crime. But then it's implied that after Elle disappears, they're all like, the rest of y'all can go. I know you killed a bunch of troops and whatever, but you may as well go. They're all just running free. What? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's like the biggest. There's a big that I've heard, and Brad and I thought the same thing when we watched it. But like, that's the one thing they really did not tie off. It's like, okay, but what in the
Yeah.
world happened? Like the
There
military.
are definitely some plot holes, but like we could do a part 2. We could do a Stranger Things plot holes episode, but this episode, because we could go off. I have lots in my brain, but
Mm.
but for the purposes of this one,
Linda
reel us
Hamilton was
back in.
just so sad. She's like, all right, you can all go now.
Never mind. Anyway, okay, back to what are some other parallels, or as far as you stumbled into God's truth with this aspect of the show? So another aspect that I saw was each of the characters had some kind of fragile or weak, I don't know, like humans do, but it seemed like their very thing that made them seem fragile, and particularly Will. I mean, Will, I think, just seemed like the drag on everybody. Will is missing. Like, why can't Will take care of himself? What's wrong with Will? He just seemed, from season one, obviously, in particular, but even after that, it was like he was just sort of the center of all the problems. He was just the victim, just pure victim, pure fragile victim. And then what did you guys think about what they did with him in season 5?
That was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I do like the way that you framed it that way because I think you could have made it a very good case coming into this season that Will was the character who is the most hard done by the entire show because season 1 he's the one missing, he's the MacGuffin, he's the one they're all looking for. He doesn't actually get a lot of screen time. He's just sort of he's gone or he's like, making scared noises in a hut. And then in season 2, he's basically what's established about his character is that his mom is very protective of him. And he eventually gets possessed by the mind flayer. So, and he becomes basically the antagonist without meaning to. Season
Mm-hmm.
3, he's basically the one who wants to keep playing Dungeons and Dragons while his friends go out on dates. And it's like, gosh, bro, read the room. And then in season 4, he's the one who's kind of whining as Micah and Elle hang out with each other, and he's the awkward third wheel. That's all he does. So this is
Mm-hmm.
the one, this season, he's given a chance to do something. My goodness, Joyce. Oh my
My
gosh.
goodness.
I
Yes.
had it with her. By the way, if I was Jonathan, I think I would know I would clock all this as well. It's like, no, my beautiful little boy, William will stay by my side. Jonathan, you go fight though, whatever it is. But William, my golden child. So we have that attitude. And then Will, I
It is
didn't
actually
I
pretty bad. I actually kept forgetting that Jonathan was her son as well because
Yeah.
Will was like always like,
yeah,
I get
apparently Joyce kept forgetting too. But at the beginning of the season, I was getting pretty fed up with the dynamic. And I know we're supposed to, as the audience, this is the filmmakers doing what they're supposed to do. It's like, Will, friggin' grow a backbone, buddy. Come on,
Yeah.
do something. And
Right.
he does, and I think
He does.
overall he ended up at a good place. Danielle, my wife, she decided she was out on seasons 4 and 5, so I watched them all by my lonesome. But I did have to describe to Danielle when Will got his powers because it. I was just so gosh darn proud of that boy.
Yeah.
He's not
Yes.
just making scared noises in the hut anymore. He's out there doing stuff.
Well, and I think the overprotectiveness of Joyce really, it seems like that ended up being kind of what was restraining him, not blaming, I'm not saying go to therapy and blame your mothers for everything, but
Not for everything, but I think Will
not
could
for
blame his mother
everything.
for this one thing.
I'm just saying, as a principle, when you sense that someone doesn't believe you can handle something, when you have that sense, if someone is being overprotective of you, then you get that message that you don't have it. You don't have what it takes. There's no power source that can help you do you know what I mean? And so not to be like, Pollyanna, believe in yourself and you can do anything. But the gifts that he had were there the whole time, but they were restrained by his believing his own reputation as being the victim, and then also shame for things he didn't like about himself. And yeah, all of those things are like paralyzing. And so it wasn't until Joyce was like, okay, no, you really can, like, you are strong, you are more than I've been letting you be, that he really took off and saved the world. So yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
Chris,
a good
go
way
ahead.
to put it because, yeah, I think throughout most of the series, if you were to describe Will in one word, it would be victim. Or in like, what are we as the audience supposed to do to Will? We are supposed to pity him. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of sad. That's not the reaction you want if you're a teenage boy. So that I think that was the biggest character arc transformation of the series, and it's the one that was probably the most overdue. Because again, seasons 1 through 4, you leave it going like, poor Will.
Yeah.
But
And I mean,
season
the
5, it's like,
haircut
oh, he's
didn't help.
actually
The haircut made him more of a victim. I do, as far as character arcs, I think Billy's was pretty dramatic, but it was like at the last minute. And I thought that one was beautiful though. Which season was that?
that was
The
3.
3. Okay. I loved season 3 because we just hated Billy, Max's brother, so much. But then the mind flayer was gave us insight into why. It doesn't excuse what he did, but it makes you see. And I think that's another thing that Stranger Things happens upon, a truth that they happen upon. And that is that there's always so much more to the people that you are interacting with than you could possibly know. There's that quote, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle, which I can't remember the attribution off the top of my head. But that's true. And again, it doesn't excuse behavior, but it doesn't come from nowhere. And no human is inherently evil. Contrast that, shall we talk about Henry and the choice Henry made? A lot of people thought that he was going to have a Billy moment. Did you guys think he was going to have a Billy moment and save everyone?
I
Okay.
thought they were going to. I was kind of afraid they were going to be honest with you. I was like, don't do this.
I don't think it would have worked. What were you going to say, Christina? Did you think that?
Yeah, that was the thing that I was real afraid they were going to do. And I was like, no, not after all this. Don't do that. Like, evil needs to be evil. Let evil be evil, you know?
Well, and also it would have just been a retread. It would have been like, they already did that with Billy.
Yeah. Well, and
so, but yeah.
But I mean, like, as like the guy, you know, the mind flayer, the whole thing, like at the very end, it would almost take away everything that they had been fighting for. And so I was like, come on, like, Stranger Things, they've been fighting some real evil this whole time. You can't take this Vecna character, split Henry from it, and then be like, sorry, I'm going to turn good now. And, well, I guess I'll defeat the thing that, you know, destroyed most of your lives and the world. No. And so I think that was one of those things where I was afraid it was going to be a villain arc that was like one of those like, oh, but he's not really so bad. He's just a troubled character who made a bad choice. But then when they had him make the choice again, when Henry said, you know, because you could see Henry was broken up about it, which I thought was, you know, as they played it through, was actually fascinating. And it made a lot of sense when he was kind of afraid to go into that cave and face something that he knew was there. But having that moment of like, no, I don't regret my choice and I'll choose it again anytime, you know? I mean, it was such, like, I'm in this. I've made my call and I'm still going to be like trying to kill y'all, trying to take over the world.
Yeah. It was very powerful.
It was. I think it established again for us viewers. I think it made the sacrifices that the kids and the people of Hawkins had been making worth something. You know, I think if they had kind of had a backtrack with the villain, you know, sad sob story, I think you would have thought, wow, really? Okay. You know? And I think a lot of these character arcs that these characters had, you think of Steve in season 1 and even like the whole friendship between Bill and Mike and all of that, like all of these things and these choices they made for each other would not have been as beautiful and as heavy. Like, it wouldn't have hold as much weight, hold as much water. The transformations would have meant as much, I think, because they were all united in fighting something purely evil.
Well, and I think that goes back to the theme that kept popping up from season to season of choice, right? There's the element of your environment, the things that happen to you, both the good things and the traumatic things. That's all laid out there, but that's also set against the choices that you make, right? Because you can even see in the contrast between 11 and Vecna, or Henry, or 1, or whatever. They both come from very similar backgrounds. They're both raised in the same kind of evil lab, but when it comes down to it, they make different choices, and that's what sends them on different trajectories, where one becomes a monster and one becomes a hero. And that is where respectfully, Mandy, I did not think the Billy thing landed completely, because it seemed like a little bit like they were trying to excuse him at the 11th hour. Where it's like, yeah, Billy's been this just absolutely loathsome, racist, sexist, violent predator force for 2 seasons, but his dad was a jerk. So it's like, okay, I get that. I get that. Yes. But he also made lots of choices as well, and I felt like they were trying to undermine that. But they totally redeemed that issue. Oh, okay, Mandy would like to respond on behalf of Billy.
Finish your sentence. Finish your sentence.
I just want you to I want you to defend Billy here.
No, please finish your sentence.
Okay. So then we go to Henry, or Vecna, or 1, where when I was afraid they were going to have him sort of turn sort of in a Billy fashion, but they didn't, and it's because he made a choice. Yes, he had this sort of power foisted upon him, and this traumatic thing that you can make a really good argument wasn't really his fault. But after that happened, he made the choice to continue and work with it. And that was the defining thing, that the choices that they both made.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is it is very likely I viewed it with a different lens because my first job out of college was at a group home where for kids who'd been abused, and a lot of their behaviors were tied to ways they had been abused. And so I probably viewed it through that lens. And I actually do remember thinking of one of the kids in relation to Billy. He was not as bad as Billy, but he would have violent outbursts and things like that. And so I think I saw it through that way. And I don't mean if I implied that it excused his behavior, that's not what I meant. I'm pretty sure I said that I didn't excuse his behavior, but the trauma is, both can be true. We can hold both things. What happened to Billy was horrible. What Billy chose to do was horrible. Those two things are, they don't lessen each other. I do think that at the end, when he makes the sacrificial choice, I think that's powerful because that's true. As evil as it, because in a story, we do want the pure evil to stay pure evil so that the overcoming can have more power. But I mean, in our own lives, I'm pretty sure that I would like grace to cover everything. Not like I'm going out killing people, but I mean, that's the God we serve, is that grace is more powerful even than evil. And so, yeah. So when he makes that sacrificial choice, to me, it said it's never, it doesn't undo what he did. I didn't view it that way, that it undid all the damage he had done, but it redeemed it. And I think in particular, the fact that Max was able to look at him and see who he had been, I think that was a good thing for her character as far as like her grief process, to be able to hold on to how his life ended, even though all the yuck happened before that. Does that make sense?
It was a good.
I think you convinced me. That's a fair point.
And the way she sees him, his sister is a good indicator of who he really was. She grieved when he died. She was really upset. It was her brother. It wasn't like he was a monster. In the sense that, nobody was grieving Vecna. I mean, Joyce.
He did monstrous things. He did
literally become a monster at one point, like this oozing flesh thing. But yes, your broader point, yes.
I did actually forget that.
I did too.
I forgot that part. Okay. That actually did forget that. But
Joyce
was not chopping off his head at the very end with an axe. So while everybody stood and watched, like,
right.
Yeah. You go, girl.
It took a little too big.
Can I say, let me say on that point, so we are all referring to when Elle finally defeats Vecna in the final episode, he gets impaled on this giant, like, tooth or whatever. Literally what I am shouting to the screen down in the dark living room all by myself late at night is, cut off the head, double tap. And she's just like, and Elle's just like, oh, he's probably dead. And then just leaves him. And then he starts gurgling. It's like, what did I just tell you? Double tap. So then Joyce does what should have happened right away. Took her way too many swings. I think I would have just taken, it's like, Joyce, I know you have more of a personal, but let's
rage.
Let's just be efficient here.
That was Mama Bear. Yeah. Joyce. No, that's funny because my
double tap, everyone. If there's a monster in a movie, chop the head off. That's all.
My husband yelled at the TV. He would have been dead. So you guys have the opposite. Yeah.
Well, okay. But anyway. So and then my husband also said, why is it Vecna again? He died the last season. They killed him in the Upside Down and the current world and shoved him out the window in a burning fireball.
That's why you chop the head off. You're not like, oh, he's impaled now, so it's probably okay. Let's get the kids out of here.
Well, but that's why Brian was like, come on, it's him again? Like, come on. So
because remember, they looked out the window and he was gone at the end of season 4.
That's true. End of season 4, he's not on the lawn. They really could have done that more efficiently. Molotov cocktails, setting him on fire. No.
Yeah, but they killed him in both worlds at the same time, and that's what should have done it. They should have.
I didn't remember
they should have done a better job
too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Well.
I want to get back to, we just touched on Max, so we need to discuss Max. We need to
Mm.
discuss. So the
Her
key thing,
athleticism.
her her procrastinating. What the heck, girl? Were we all, speaking of yelling at the TV, were we yelling at the TV to get
Yep.
her to start running? I mean,
Yep.
I understand it's hard to leave Holly, but that isn't even the first time she procrastinated. The first time she procrastinated so long she missed her window,
Her
literally.
window. Girl window.
But even though that part was annoying, that whole element of music being the key to drawing you away from what's evil and toward salvation. I mean, is that not the most Anselmy part of the whole series right there?
Yeah. It's
What do
beautiful.
you guys think about that?
Well, I
Yeah,
love
I
that it
think
was
they did
music.
a Go ahead, Christina.
Oh, no, you're good. We're doing the whole Riverside thing where we're overlapping a little bit too much with each other. And so we're like not quite catching it when it's, yeah. I was gonna say it's music, but it's also music that she associates with the people she loves. And so
Oh,
it's kind of
right.
this like twofold thing. Yeah, where it's nice music and it means something to her, but it means something mostly because of who she associates it with. And so there's this beautiful marriage, I think, in that of beauty and relationship and embodiment. And what does it mean to have them connect together, and can it draw us from the dark place into the place of light? And yeah, absolutely, I think it can in real life. And I think in the show that was definitely intentional.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't even think of that part. What were you going to say, Matt?
Well, I think the show did a good job of establishing it in season 4, right? Where they go to the asylum and they give kind of this science-y, it's in a science word direction explanation about how music can like hit a different part of the brain than other things can, and it can have a calming influence or sort of this steadying influence on people who are otherwise very disturbed. So they had that, and then yeah, it's presented as sort of like an anchor, which
Mm.
I think was done very effectively, because when she's in the midst of everything else swirling around her, she has that one anchor tethering her to what is real. So that they did that very effectively.
Like beauty and truth. But
Do you know
yeah,
what else I
yeah.
really sorry. Well, I was just thinking back to choice and how this show is so much about choices and how you have the choices throughout every single season of these major characters who take a turn or they don't, like Vecna. But even when I was just thinking of, yeah, Derek, I did not see that coming. It was
No.
almost corny. I didn't see it coming. And yet I kind of loved it. Like I was here for it. He's like, I'm not dipshit Derek. I'm delightful Derek. And I was like, you go, dude. Well,
And
dude.
I think
But
that is a recurring theme in the show that I mentioned earlier in different ways. Like in the same way that they thought Will was weak because he looked weak because of that terrible haircut,
yeah,
among other things. Derek, I mean, there's no way you don't think he's redeemable. He's such a little jerk. Like he's fundamentally a jerk. And we all had
Yeah,
those, one of
as
those,
they're
or
trying
we
to
were
kidnap
them.
his families, we're thinking like, would it really be the worst thing if he's kidnapped by the Demogorgon? Like, I don't know.
Is it really a loss? I don't know. But then, I mean, that brings us to Steve's character arc. I think I've heard the Duffer Brothers say they didn't mean to make Steve likable, but Joe Keery, the actor, is just impossible to not like. Like, I think,
Tornado of charisma.
yeah, I think they said, I think that they would have killed him off, but he was just too likable. And it wasn't even about the audience liking him. They liked him. And one of the most unexpected um, turns in the show was Dustin and Steve being like besties. But it
yeah,
was so, not only was it one of the most unexpected things, it's one of my favorite parts of the show is that whole, especially when they're walking down the train track, like little allusion, I think, to Stand By Me on purpose. But just their relationship was so great, that whole unlikely relationship. And that's something that was recurring in the show, that like, we don't see each other. We just don't see each other. But if we're given the chance or we try to see one another, there's so much more, so many more possibilities for community and bearing one another's burdens and all of that.
yeah. What about? I'm totally blanking on Mike's soul sister's name. Just
Holly?
Holly. Thank you. I almost
Yeah.
say Hope or something, but no, it is H. She, first of all, that poor girl.
Yeah.
Poor girl. I feel like she got hit so hard with, like, everything, and
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh. Anyway, I don't know, I mean, that girl and trauma and therapy she'll have later. No, but no,
Yeah.
but speaking of choices, I mean, I think this could actually be a really cool jump into sort of the D role-playing game and how that was kind of a
Let's
part.
not get too far ahead of ourselves. I still have some Steve thoughts, but continue, continue.
Okay.
We'll circle
Well,
back to Steve. Go ahead, Christine.
Holly. Yeah, so the D&D and the role playing, and it was kind of cute because you want to kind of go back to the 80s. You have to kind of be in the 80s mindset and what role playing games were, how they were seen, sort of a team effort, what they represented. And of course, from the very beginning the kids were playing these together. And so how that in and of itself was bonding for them as they encountered real world evil.
Mhm.
And so that's why excuse me, it was really special when Mike gave Holly this sweet little figurine thing,
Mhm.
and he said, "I was gonna wait till you were older, but"
Yeah.
I don't remember what the name something Holly, what was it? Hero
Holly the
Holly?
heroic.
Holly the Heroic.
That's right. That's
Yes,
right.
yes, yes. And how just a tiny symbol of something like that, first of all, of someone who believed in her, right? Her big brother. And then something she could hold on to tangibly was really, really helpful for her as she kind of faced these inner fears and nightmares and demons and rumors. And then she had to face them for real. And then she had Max, who was there to help her and say, no, you are brave. And she had to make a lot of choices. And
Mhm.
she had to make them without the people that she was used to making them with. She basically watched her mom get murdered before her eyes. Like, she didn't know her mom was okay. I think there are a lot of things that and choices she made that were really admirable. I think she became one of my favorite characters, honestly. That girl went through a lot and she faced a lot and she did not give up.
Okay, would you like to circle back to Steve, Matthew?
Very much so.
Okay.
So, Steve is my favorite character.
Okay.
Exhibit A, look at the Funko Pop I just got for Christmas.
Look at
It's
that.
season 2 Steve because he has the sunglasses and the awesome bat with the nails in it. But
Right.
going back to season 1, you are right, Mandy. The Duffer Brothers originally did not intend for him to be a major character. He was going to be
Mhm.
the sort of paint by numbers cookie cutter jerk boyfriend, right? But again, the actor's role was so charismatic that they changed it. Or initially, it wasn't supposed to be Steve who came to help Nancy and Jonathan at the very end. It was supposed to be Lonnie, the deadbeat dad. But Steve sort of slides in to get that redemption arc. And he
Yeah.
continues that throughout the entire series. I love the relationship with Dustin. Again, that just seems like one of those lightning in a bottle things that happens with the show. But just shows how they consistently take these redemption arcs from the unlikely sort of minor side characters. I have
Mhm.
further thoughts on Steve and Nancy, which I will not do now, but I'm going to have to insist on being able to do it before we leave.
Okay, okay.
So then we have Holly, who's a very interesting character because they kind of had to introduce her this season, right? Because all the other kids had gotten too old. None of them could plausibly be kids anymore. So they kind of had to do next man up mentality with the kid sister who got almost no screen time. So she got just a little bit of screen time season 1. Did she get it
Well,
much
she
of
was a
anything 2
baby.
through 4? Yeah, she
Well,
was
no,
like
she
just
was like a toddler and a baby. She was in the
yeah, I
high
don't know if she
chair.
gets much of anything 2 through 4, but that was a very interesting thing too because it's almost a new character. But to your broader point, Christine, about D&D, which I thought was really good because it gets to the whole underlying theme that they kind of bring full circle at the very end of the series, which is the concept of story, right? It
Mhm.
starts off with these 4 nerds who find all this meaning in Dungeons and Dragons, which is a game about basically inventing and living in stories that guides them throughout all of their adventures. They're always talking about, role within the party. They're making amends with their fellow party members. And that comes full circle at the very end when Holly takes the mantle and she is the one who's gonna be telling the stories in the basement. And Mike decides to become like a writer, a storyteller, sort of
Mhm.
taking the narrative and imbuing the meaning on everything too, which it was a good redemption arc for Mike as well,
Mhm.
which we can get into more. But yeah, they did bring that aspect of Christina full circle very well.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
agree with you, Christina, that Holly impressed me. I was a little bit cranky. I was like, oh, they got so old. Now they have to bring in the baby sister. But they did so much more with her than I expected because of her courageous, like you said, choices. And she didn't do things the way the older kids did. She ended up being like singular. She was almost like an L, even though she didn't have the powers of L, the way that she marshaled everyone and overcame their disbelief of her and just kept pressing forward. I also loved the way the whole series ended.
That's what I was hoping we could talk about.
Yeah, like that was sadder than some of the deaths. I don't know. Bob died. Actually, the worst death for me, sorry, I'm going in circles. Eddie. And I really, really, really wanted Eddie to surprise us and still be alive in the Upside Down. I was hoping that so much for season 5. And I was so bummed when Eddie didn't come back because I thought he was fantastic. We had kids like that at my school. I can think of 3 just off the top of my head that were exactly like Eddie because that was my era, the 80s. The kid that everybody thought was stupid and worthless and useless and just, garbage, cast him off. He's not worth anything. And then he ends up rocking out. No, anyway. But back to the way it ended, even though all the deaths were very sad, that was, I think, one of the saddest moments in the whole series is when Mike is like looking down the basement stairs because all of us are old enough and relatively to know what it feels like when you realize a part of your life is done.
Yep. Yep. And there's a
You know?
passing off of the baton in a way
Mm-hmm.
that can be quite beautiful and quite painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting. Well, first of all, I think there are a couple different elements of the ending of the show. Of course, Elle dying. We didn't really see that coming, although some of us may have guessed. I was hoping not, but I also wasn't going to be surprised. And I think that made it more powerful. Liked this sort of element of they were back to sort of all of them, 18 months later, I believe, when Hawkins was somewhat repaired and they had somewhat moved on, especially the older kids, to pursuing their passions in different universities and whatever. Mike and Dustin? Yeah. Dustin and Max and why do I always forget?
Lucas.
Thank you. And
My
Lucas were all.
son-in-law's name is Lucas, so that would be
So that
bad if I
helps.
didn't
Yes.
remember.
Okay. Thank you.
But go ahead.
They were all in the basement, and Mike says, I choose, I'm going to believe this, and they all choose this as well. And it was an interesting plot device for, I think, the storytellers, the directors, to put in there. Because as viewers, we're offered a choice in a weird way. And I think it kind of ultimately, if you think about it, this sort of alternate reality, none of them actually really know, but there is an element of faith. And it's an element of faith that they've kept this whole time of believing that Hawkins is worth saving, believing that like Crummy Town is worth fighting for, believing that each other is worth fighting for. And so they're taking this element of hope and choice and they're choosing to believe something beautiful and full of hope and faith, even when it doesn't look good, And it almost reminds me of this sort of element of us as humans choosing to believe that there is beauty and that there is this higher plane in a weird way of saying it,
No, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't have it's not an airy fairy thing. It
No.
takes a lot of guts to be able to say, I believe, I believe, I believe. And you still have all the tears, And it really reminds me of us experiencing the deaths of our loved ones, particularly as Christians, and seeing the ones we love die. And you say, I believe, with tears just streaming down your face, And again, I'm not saying this is like a direct correlation of gospel and, Stranger Things. But I
Right.
am saying there was something beautiful about that choice, given the arc of the characters and the choices that they'd made to fight for Crummy Town and to fight for the life of the people they love all, already. So, and then of course the passing on the baton with like Mike looking at
Yes.
his little sister and her little friends, and I was like crying. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
It makes me think if there's an upside down, then why can't there be like the opposite of that? Do you know what I'm trying to say? If this reality, there can be an absolute distortion of it, then why not believe that there's an absolute redemption of it? If there can be a distorted version of where we are now, then there's a a redeemed version of where we are now, which would make where we are now seem like the upside down. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
Yeah, and I
All
thought
right.
another
What do
theme
you have, Matthew?
Yeah, another theme that came through, it was brought home at the very end, but you can see the threads of it throughout the prior seasons as well, is just the theme of growing up. Well,
Mm.
where you can see throughout it, there's this recurring theme with especially the youngest, because they start off, what, in like fifth grade or something, and in the end, graduating high school. You see them get to the point where, in season 3, it's a big deal that Lucas and Mike are more concerned about their girlfriends and they're about playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's just a normal part of growing up. These relationships
Yeah.
change. And I thought another thing that really played into this whole feel was these nostalgia permeating everything with the constant references and the nods. It's done by someone who is letting the nostalgia sort of seep into everything. It's if you just were to watch the show, be like, I'm gonna look for 80s pop culture references. Like that's enough to keep you going. It's like, oh, that's E.T., that's the Terminator, that's this movie, that's this movie, that's this movie. You can do that. And it almost seems like it's the artists who grew up in that world, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's having this childhood nostalgia and then sort of by the end coming to grips with growing up in the midst of that. So the nostalgia almost serves the larger point of growing up.
Oh, for sure. Well, I also just being someone who grew up in that time, I will tell you, I can pretty much guarantee you the reason that, or well, I guess I'm theorizing, but I was told not to be friends with people who played Dungeons and Dragons because it was so, I mean, you guys think the pushback against Harry Potter was bad. The pushback against D&D, and it's still out there. I mean, they literally believed that playing Dungeons and Dragons was going to bring evil to life. So, I mean, that's kind of the premise.
Yeah. It was
That's
kind
sort
of
of what
seen a little
happened.
like yeah, it was kind of seen a little bit like in some of the Christian circles, like as like Ouija boards. I
Eh,
yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Even
100%.
for me growing up, like there was a lot
Yeah.
of that
Mhm.
still around.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I
Yeah, I
really
mean,
feel like that I could see the Duffer Brothers going, what if that really did happen? Cool story, bro. And now they're millionaires. So what else? I'm enjoying the conversation, but I feel like we gotta hit the things that. What are the burning things you want to say? I can see Matthew. Smoke is coming from
so
your
many,
ears.
so many.
So many.
So one of the things that I was hoping to see in this season would be a Mr. Wheeler redemption arc or a Mr. Wheeler something, right? Because
Meh.
throughout the first 4 seasons, he was just such a nothing. He's such a nothing burger. All he would do is complain about language and he was just like the joke was how oblivious he was to everything. Doesn't even realize that his wife almost cheated on him with the lifeguard.
They
But
still don't
I
alive.
think that's why he doesn't have the arc, though. I think that is very accurate because he was so oblivious he wasn't seeing the people around him.
They didn't even like we're not
But
even
I-
sure he's alive.
Well,
No,
here's
they
the
had him
thing.
at the end. They had him at the end. He made some snide remark at the graduation.
Well, first of all, I will say I have had moments at the dinner table where all the kids are misbehaving in all the different ways. So it's like, I need to do something as a dad. So what can I do? Language. You shouldn't say that. It's like, okay, that's at least one thing I can do. And then season 5, he has one moment you can argue where he's out hitting golf balls. And as the attack's going, and you're like, we all know how stories work, right? You're like, oh, it's Chekhov's golf club. So he's going to attack with the golf club. Good. He does it. He sees an interdimensional monster in his bedroom, and his instinct is to attack it with the golf club to protect his family. That's great. Then he's knocked unconscious, and we don't see from him again. My
He was
man, he's
slashed
done
in the
wrong.
chest
He's
unconscious.
done wrong. I think part of
Nah.
this for me is personal because,
Yeah, I think so.
by the way, look, Mandy, look at this. He's like, "No, Billy should be redeemed. He's fine. But, he watches too much TV. Beyond redemption.
No,
But-
that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying for the purpose of this story, the reason he doesn't have an arc is because he's not being present with he's not seeing it. But I hear what you're saying. I forgot that he did anything with the golf club. In my memory, he never saw any of it. And so it made sense to me that he didn't change, but I forgot that part.
And my point is, and I suppose my point there is made, but I don't know.
Yes.
It's not the worst thing. I think part of this is personal because he happens to look like my grandpa Sid. I feel like they're doing wrong by my grandpa, but I suppose story-wise, it's not the biggest deal. Can we talk about the fact? Here's a take I've had for several years. I've argued on social media that the show needed to kill more primary characters. I believe that throughout the show, the consistent pattern was that the show would kill off the bare minimum it could get away with. Let's go through the major deaths season by season, okay? Season 1, the only major death is Barb. And when Barb gets killed, it's like, it's sad, but also not that sad. She's like the best friend of Nancy. It's like, okay, so it's a little sad, but we all move on. Season 2, Bob, Sean Astin, he's introduced that season. We like him, but he's kind of he's a little annoying too. And again, when
we want her to be
like,
with Hopper, so we need him to go away.
Exactly. It's kind of sad that Sean Astin dies, but also, Joyce, maybe you could be doing better anyway, so whatever. Season 3, the only major death is Billy. Billy has the redemption arc, but throughout most of his screen time, he is seen as a very loathsome, dangerous, violent presence. So again, we're sad. We're like glad he has the redemption story, but also like, okay, you can die. Season 4, the only person who really dies is Eddie. He's introduced in season 4. The same pattern repeats again. It's sad, but not really sad. It's the bare minimum they can get away with. Season 5, yes, they have the L thing, the sort of choose your own adventure. Christina, I think you did a really great job explaining how that works.
Yeah.
But the only real definitive death was what's her name from season 2, from the episode The Lost Sister that we all hate. And that is the only episode that I skipped on the rewatch because it's like, whatever, I don't care. This doesn't do anything. They bring her. Here's my theory. The Duffer brothers knew they had to kill someone. They didn't want to kill any of their precious little main characters. They're like, who can we can't introduce another new character because that was the Eddie strategy last year. Who is the character already in the canon that we could kill and it'll be the least sad? I know, the jerk Lost Sister who nobody likes. Yeah. So that's what they did. Kill more people.
It's sort of the Star Trek, if they're wearing a red shirt, you know they're going to die kind of thing. So if they're new, well, that's fair.
For the record, listeners, in my video, I recommended the following characters die. I wanted Jonathan, Mike, and Murray to all die. All of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Mike. I would have been fine
Mike in season 3. If in season 3, when Mike is dating Elle and being so blatantly disrespectful to Hopper when he's dating his daughter,
death penalty.
If Hopper had murdered Mike, all I'm saying is if I was on the jury, I wouldn't convict.
Mercy. Okay, rant. Granted.
I have another rant, but if someone else wants to say something before my other rant, that's fine.
Christina, do you have anything, or are we just going to let him rant?
You know what? I mean, I think there's a couple wrap-ups we should do for time, but I mean, Matt and his rants are pretty fantastic.
Yeah, Matt, you go ahead and rant, and then we'll let Christina propose a wrap-up.
Okay, as you all know, I've been Team Steve, ride or die from season 1. Yes. I think that Nancy leaving Steve for Jonathan in season 2 was a travesty. Agreed. Jonathan does not deserve her. Agreed. Jonathan was driving me absolutely bonkers. Maybe that's a reason why I had Jonathan dying in my predictions. Whatever. So
probably. I totally would have been fine with that.
I was thrilled when Nancy and Jonathan broke up. Should have happened a long time ago. But I feel like they backed away from the seeds they planted in season 4 with Steve ending up with Nancy. And I thought the way things ended, where Steve is the guy who's staying in the hometown, he's coaching baseball, he's teaching at the high school, where Nancy has her exciting, high-paced job in the big city. So that kind of ticked me off, but then I realized something. This is a perfect Hallmark movie, isn't it? This is the exact premise for every single Hallmark movie, where Nancy goes to the big city to have this very high-octane job in the fast lane. She comes back home to meet the guy, her old flame, who stayed home and has the wholesome job. Okay. Yes. Can I give you my pitch for this movie? Because I think this should be on Hallmark next year.
Yeah. Next year. Got it.
So announcer voice. When Nancy left her hometown of Hawkins for the big city, she never knew that coming back home would turn everything upside down. And then they're going to cut to all these scenes of like Jonathan and Nancy rekindling, talking about that.
Not Jonathan. So finally, you said Jonathan.
Jonathan. Oh, forget Jonathan. He's dead in this version. He's
She comes back
dies
for the
in
funeral.
He dies in a back alley of the West Village.
Oh,
it's sad, but not that sad. But anyway, So Nancy comes back home to Hawkins to visit whatever. They meet up with Steve. There's all this delightful banter. And then here's the tagline. Here's the tagline. Falling in love is, here's the title, The Strangest Thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you need to write the Duffer Brothers. This is the best choose your own adventure ever. I love that.
Do it, Hallmark. Do the right thing. The Strangest Thing. Coming
Yes.
to a Hallmark channel near you next year.
I think that was brilliant. I think, yes.
Good.
Christina, what
Good.
would you like to touch on in a more serious wrap up sort of
Yeah.
vibe?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately, I mean, do we give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Matt's choose your own adventure or Stranger Things?
Entirely. My bad.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
definitely thumbs up.
Are we thumbs up for Stranger Things?
So
Yes.
for me, one of the things that really stood out was on the rewatch, seasons 1 through 4, I enjoyed all 4 seasons more on the rewatch. So I think that's a really good thing. I will be interested to see, a few months, year or two, whatever, when I rewatch this, what I think. But I really enjoyed season 5. I think it was a very difficult thing to land the ship. I think they did it. I thought it was all told a very satisfying ending.
My one quibble with the ending is there is no way those young adults are going to meet up once a month. That's not going to happen. When they all say they're going to meet up once a month, we're going to go.
Yeah, that's what me and the boys said after we graduated from college. It never happens.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
They might have put that in there so that we would all go, that's not going to happen. I mean, I could see them saying it. We've all said it. So in that way, it's accurate.
We've all said it.
It's not going to happen. We've all said it.
We're not gonna drift apart.
But in that question though, when I had kind of a thumbs up or thumbs down in general, I kind of wanted to sort of be, okay, listeners, we recommend, we don't recommend. But I also wanted to sort of do is there an overview that we can each offer a listener as to not necessarily why they should watch it if they haven't, although that's okay too. Although we kind of did a whole bunch of spoilers that probably
I don't think anybody. Yeah.
If they haven't watched it in there at this point, what are you doing, listeners?
Yeah,
they're just coming to us because we have all the wisdom and we can just give them all the things they wanted to know, and they're like, okay, good, we don't have to watch the show now because Mandy and Matthew and Christina are just brilliant minds and they've dug into everything. So that's what
it sounds like you're asking for our overarching impression. Is that what you're asking for?
I think so. I have kind of an overarching impression myself, but I think that would probably be a good way to pull things together. And then, Mandy, whatever closes you had would be great.
Matthew, what's your overall impression?
So I think that it's the genre, right? Because Netflix gets a pretty well-deserved reputation for basically appealing to lowest common denominator, algorithm-driven, kind of simplistic slop. And that's what a lot of its stuff is, especially its original. But I think this was an example of a genre where it is kind of a sci-fi Steven Spielberg 80s throwback that's drenched in nostalgia. It could have been just okay. It would have been pleasant and fun to watch, even if it wasn't that good, but they made it good. Like, they took this sort of silly genre concept and gave it a lot of compelling characters, a lot of compelling world building, and made it something that is worthwhile to watch. It's smart, it's well done. Example, it's creating art within a silly genre, which I think is a really great achievement.
I like that. What about you, Christina?
I mean, ultimately, I would say that I was very hooked. There were seasons that I liked more than others, and some of the violence was really intense, and I was like, woo!
Yeah.
But honestly, I thought it was extremely creative, and the characters did really well, and it was very compelling all the way through. And it never felt like there was too much excess, right? It never felt like there was too much fat to trim off. I just felt like they did a really good job, for the most part, in pulling out elements of character developments as each season went on. And the plot refreshingly, different enough for the most part each season. But overall, I think, Matthew, your comment was one of the better ways to wrap it up, which was it was a sort of nostalgia soaked, as you said, sci-fi thriller, horror film, weird sort of concept that they turned into a take on art and some sort of deeper questions about who are we? Is it the choices that make who we are? The sacrifice, the willingness to love, to die, to fight for what you believe, for who you love, willing to give up, and really what is worth fighting for, you know?
Mhm.
And so I think they turned some of that stuff into some really heavy but beautiful thematic action
Yeah.
that was taken for the most part by kids, which was pretty extraordinary if you think about
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, for me, I just think overall, if I think the word I would say is just satisfying, which is not always the way I feel at the end of a series. I have a friend who thinks all the actors were terrible. I don't know, they're children. To me, and then of course there are all the plot holes and things like that. I don't expect perfection from my entertainment, and that's ultimately what this comes down to is entertainment. But I am satisfied because I think in the ways that matter, it ended up being more than entertainment. And it's all the things we've said, like just those truths that they hit on that, the upside down, like it, when things are off, it's because it's a corruption and the beauty of fragility becoming strength and the community, the way I love how many times were the different characters, like little clumps of characters, they'd be in like 3 different locations and everything they were doing depended on everyone else working as a team, like just the extreme bearing one another's burdens was like right there in your face. And I feel like that's why it just spoke. It spoke to me because of those truths, the through line of truth. So yeah, I was really satisfied and I'll definitely watch it again. But I mean, it is very graphic and I'm a very visual person. So some of the graphic stuff was a lot, but it was worth it overall. So well, thank you guys very much for talking with me about this. And like you guys said, if anybody listened all the way through and they haven't seen this, then blame yourself. We told you. We told you not to listen. So, but I'm
I
going to
still think
assume
they're
that
coming to
everyone,
us for our week.
yes, but I'm glad for whoever did join us all along the way. And as you can tell, things are winding down here at the Anselm Society Digital Pub. The fire is down to embers, the customers are trundling home, and you've polished off your final glass. Once again, Believe to See is a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. If you have a minute, we would love for you to rate and review the show on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, at least on Spotify, you can add a comment, add your opinions about things. Did you like Jonathan or were you shipping Steve and Nancy? Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.